right, welcome into the Players Club, week 11 of college football, as we get ready to talk a little college football with you live on our video platform today, but also you'll catch us on replay as well, as you always do. I'm Jim Dunaway, along with Lance Taylor, Mick Gillispie from Bama Insider. Mick, how you doing, man? You doing well today?
Yeah, I'm just ready for a live show, man. I'm pumped up right now. Let's go.
Yeah, we record it as live all the time, so nothing should change except you guys, the ability to interact with us. So you can jump into the chat room on our video platforms here and ask a question if you got a specific game you'd like to get a little lean on or a play on from these two experts. We're always brought to you by our friends at the Golden Moon Hotel and Casino over in Philadelphia, Mississippi, less than a 2-hour drive from Birmingham. It's the sports book at Timeout Lounge. It offers that Vegas-style sports book and traditional sports betting, all locally right there, a short drive from Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, or Jackson, Mississippi. You can wager on all the sports that you love with great screens every way, and they've got a great deal right now. If you bet all the way until March Madness begins, you bet $50 and you get to play a round of golf at the Dancing Rabbit Golf Course, known as Mississippi's Augusta. You get to play that for only $30. So a $50 bet inside the Timeout Lounge and Sportsbook, and you get a $30 greens fee at Dancing Rabbit. It's all at the Sportsbook at the Golden Moon Casino, the proud sponsor of the Players Club. Let's start off this week with the LSU-Arkansas game. It's a big game with now playoff implications. And LT, I'll start with you. LSU-Arkansas, how are you playing that game this week?
Well, LSU's coming off such a emotional high, winning that game against Alabama in overtime. And Jaden Daniels is playing lights out right now. You look at his first 6 games, 7 passing touchdowns, 3 rush touchdowns. Last 3 games, 7 pass touchdowns, 7 rush touchdowns, and 0 turnovers. I just feel like LSU coming off this emotional high. Arkansas looked like a train wreck against Liberty. I think it's a perfect storm. Jaden Daniels has an average game. I think KJ Jefferson plays well. Raheem Sanders, who leads the SEC in rushing, has a big game. I think Arkansas pulls the upset. I like Arkansas plus 3.5. I actually would play him as a live dog on the money line.
He'd play the money line there, Mick. How do you like this with that point spread at 3.5 there with LSU? Seems to be a lot of people talking an Arkansas upset here.
Yeah, look, I saw LSU beat Alabama, but I'm just not totally sold on them this year. Look, when they run the ball, 4.7 yards per carry or more, they're 6-0, right? So basically, to slow them down, you've got to stop the run. And obviously, Alabama wasn't able to stop their quarterback running the ball. Arkansas is kind of the same way, too. You know, like when they stop the run, they're good. And when they run the ball, they're good. Last week, they had 144 yards against Liberty, and they lost. They weren't ready for the game. The only way that you're going to rebound is if you go and you win the next week. And I don't know that they're going to win this football game. Brian Kelly's a really good coach. LSU's having a lot of fun playing, but I love a home dog, and I'm with LT. 3.5. I'm taking the Hogs in this game. I think they're going to keep it close. I'm just not totally sold on LSU. I know they're a good team, but I think, like he said, the emotional high of beating Alabama the way that they did, I just don't think it carries over.
Yeah, I'm concerned for LSU for a couple of reasons. One of them, they had so many true freshmen that made plays against Alabama. So now those freshmen have to get their feet back on the ground with everybody loving on them, telling them, and now they're in the playoff hunt. Can they handle the stage? Tennessee, against a much better opponent in Georgia, could not handle the stage. I don't think Arkansas is anywhere close to Georgia. I think something's wrong inside that program here at the end of the year for Sam Pittman. I'm going to ride with LSU on a coaching victory here from Brian Kelly, being in big stages before. I like LSU different from these guys. We continue now with the Players Club. Let's move now to a 2:30 ESPN game. Louisville and Clemson at the other Death Valley there, where Clemson is coming off a tough loss at Notre Dame, where they got their manhood taken, where Notre Dame ran it and ran it and ran it again. Mick, I'll start with you. Louisville and Clemson.
Yeah, and Clemson's dealing with a bunch of injuries. Kobe Pace, the running back's hurt. Bo Collins, wide receiver. Defensive end Justin Foster's probably going to miss the game. And then you really have to give Will Shipley the workload of the runs, which he's been good with. But I've never been impressed with DJU. I'm not sure why he's even starting. I felt like Cade Klubnik should have been the guy. I know he threw the big interception against Notre Dame last week, and that eventually led to an Irish touchdown. But I just feel like if you would have turned the offense over to him in the beginning of the season, when you realized DJU just, was having struggles, then, maybe you wouldn't be in this position. And on the other side, Malik Cunningham has been so good. All of a sudden, you look at the Cardinals, who weren't that good at the beginning of the year. They're getting better. 223 yards, 3 touchdowns against the Dukes last week, 70% completing passes. They love to try to score points, do the Cardinals, and they're not as banged up. I mean, look, Trayvon Cooley may miss the game. I'm not sure. I mean, he didn't play last week, but they didn't need him against JMU. You're getting 7 points. If you take the Cardinals, I think that the Tigers are going to win this game. I just don't know that they're going to win by 7. This entire year, I've kind of, just like with Alabama, I've kind of been waiting for Clemson to really be dominant. They're not. They're a really good team, but they're not elite. And I love the idea of this Cardinals offense with 7 points.
The against the spread numbers tell a different story in these two teams. Clemson's numbers against the spread this year are not good numbers.
Yeah, I mean, they're 8-1 overall, but they're 4-5 against the number. They've won 38 straight at home, so that's obviously a plus for Clemson, laying just now 7 points. It opened at 7.5. But I look at Louisville over the last month: 4 straight wins, 4 straight covers, and during that 4-game win streak, they forced an FBS high 15 turnovers, and they're plus 10 turnovers during that stretch. That's why they're winning games, and they've got 4 250-plus yard rushers. You mentioned last week Clemson had problems against the run. I think Louisville will be able to run it. I think Malik Cunningham will give them a lot of problems. And DJ, a 23 QBR over his last 2 games. He hasn't been good. I think he's lost his confidence. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a live dog here plus 7. I do like Louisville, though, plus 7.
You like Louisville plus the 7. You went Louisville, too. I'm going to ride with Clemson. I think we get a slow start from DJU very early and a quick hook, and then it becomes Klubnik's team the rest of the way. I think the switch happens this weekend, and I'll take Clemson with the banged-up receiving core to get the win today. So 2 Louisvilles and a Clemson there, even though Mick thinks Clemson wins and just struggles to cover. You never struggle to cover a great time at the Sportsbook and Timeout Lounge over in Philadelphia, Mississippi. Short drive from Birmingham, just 2 hours away, less than 2 hours, in fact. Short drive from Tuscaloosa or from Jacksonville as well. Instead of going all the way to Vegas, just go over to Philadelphia, Mississippi at the Golden Moon Hotel and enjoy the Sportsbook and Timeout Lounge. It has the Vegas feel, but you're right here close to home, enjoying great college football and college basketball this year and all the way up until March Madness. You bet $50 and you get to play the Dancing Rabbit Golf Course for just $30. Let's move to game number 3 of our 5 games we're playing today here on the Players Club. Let's do Alabama in Oxford against Ole Miss, 2:30 on CBS. Here comes the Crimson Tide off their second straight-up loss of the year, and it also means their second loss against the spread.
We talk about Alabama's road woes the last couple of years. Did you guys realize they have trailed in the fourth quarter in 5 of their last 8 road games? I mean, that's just not the Alabama of old. They're 5-0, though, against the number, their last 5 games coming off a loss. They just haven't looked good on the road, and teams that score 30-plus are 7-6 against Alabama over the last 5 years. You score under 30, you're not going to win. Alabama's 52-0. It's a pretty good Ole Miss offense. I'm going to preface this by saying I've been completely wrong on Alabama on the road. I laid it against Tennessee. I laid it against LSU. I'm going to lay it again here against Ole Miss because I'm not sure how good Ole Miss is. Still think Alabama's a good team. They just haven't put it together. It's not as good of a team as we've seen over years under Nick Saban, but I still think Alabama wins and covers. I'll lay the 11.5.
Mick, Alabama wins the game for me, but I like Ole Miss to cover this one. It's a lot of points at home for a team that's in the top 11 of the playoff rankings, and I know what Alabama's done on the road. You got to prove it to me that this team can be more disciplined. What about you?
Yeah, look, and the line's dropped a 0.5 point since it's open, right? And so that means that the money's going towards the Rebels. They've had a really good season, and Alabama's struggled. I mean, even in some of the games that they've won, they're also 2-2 straight up in their last 4 road games, 1-3 against the spread on the road this season. And the worst part about it is they're supposed to be dominating these games. I mean, they're huge favorites again this week. But there's just a 10-point difference between what they've scored and what they've allowed in these games. The game last week against LSU, Alabama just wasn't able to make the stops when they needed to. The wide receivers can't get open when they need them to. It's been really tough watching this Crimson Tide team because there are some great players like Gibbs and obviously the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. But at the same time, last time these two teams played, it was a back and forth game. I just don't know that Alabama could score 63 points to beat the Rebels on the road. And I think that Lane Kiffin's going to have a lot of things drawn up in this game. The other part of it is that the Rebels lead the SEC in rushing. You know, they're over 250 yards per game. And then they've got the Alabama native Judkins that runs the ball. He's got 13 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards. But they disguise those coverages so well in those schemes. You know, it looks like they're going to pass, they run. Alabama's been discombobulated on the road. Besides last year's SEC championship game, I really haven't felt like Alabama's played a truly a complete game. And I'm surprised that the line's this high. I mean, I've been like Lance. I mean, I keep laying the points for Alabama, and I'm waiting for them to play 4 quarters of good football. But last week convinced me that it's not going to happen. And the other part of it is this, and let's be honest. I mean, when Alabama's been out of the playoff mix, it's not like they've come in and flexed. Nope. You know, when they've been out of the playoff mix, they've been horrible. Let's go back to Utah when they got blown out in the Sugar Bowl, or how about when it happened against Oklahoma? You know, I just don't know what to expect with Alabama other than what I've seen. And that is very, very inconsistent, mediocre play. This is a big game for Ole Miss. They win this one, and who knows? Maybe they're in the college football playoff. Maybe they're in Atlanta. They're having one of the best seasons. I hope I'm wrong, obviously, but I'm going to take the points all day here and take the home dog.
So Mick and I with the Rebels right there. The show also being brought to you by Lance's Lock, lanceslock.com. You can get not only the plays of college football, but also basketball plays in the NFL every week at lanceslock.com. How do you sign up?
Yeah, just go to lanceslock.com. We take PayPal, Cash App, Venmo. We've got everything lined up, all major credit cards. It's only $90 per month. And again, 19 consecutive non-losing weeks. Coming off a 2-1 last night. We've got college hoops, NBA, obviously full card of college football, and the NFL. Jump on board. It's only $90. Try us out, lanceslock.com.
There was a time back in the summer you thought Georgia and Mississippi State was a losable game for Georgia. That's our next game to talk about. That's 6 o'clock ESPN. Is that a losable game for Georgia?
No, I don't think it is. Georgia has won 12 of the last 13 in the series. I thought Mississippi State was going to be better than they are right now. Georgia's not only winning, they're covering. They're 7-2 against the number. I do think, though, Georgia coming off an emotional win against Tennessee, how dominant they were. They played completely lights out. I think it's going to be hard to refocus on the road in Starkville. I think they win the game, but I think 16.5 points is too much.
16.5 too much, says LT. What about you, Mick?
Yeah, look, I agree. Mississippi State's 5-0 at home. They're 1-3 on the road. I like Will Rogers a lot better than Stetson Bennett, although I thought Bennett really stepped up in that game against Tennessee. But, you know, when Mike Leach called those guys out against Alabama and he was talking about having dinosaur arms and, and not getting out there, I mean, you kind of going to test someone's manhood. I think that Mississippi State is one of those teams that every once in a while in these type of games, they play really well. I think about the time that, they challenged Tim Tebow when he was at Florida and they were so good. And I just think that this is one of those matchups that is going to give Georgia some trouble. I go back to what they looked like against Missouri. And, as I just kind of beat down Alabama, the one thing I got to say about the Crimson Tide is that they've played an NFL style road schedule this year. I mean, they've played 5 big-time road games. Georgia hasn't. I mean, like they've had a very soft, which is kind of normally Alabama's schedule, to be honest with you, a very soft road schedule. I'm not saying that this is a hard game, but this is certainly a step up from the game that they played at Missouri, where they were lucky to get out of town with a win. I'll take the 16.5. I think this sets up to be a great letdown game. Georgia's lack of a pass rush, which I guess it really didn't apply against Tennessee, but they've had a lack of a pass rush. Will Rogers is going to get rid of the ball quickly. And you know what? I guess 16.5. I mean, I just got this feeling that it's just going to be one of those games where you're looking at it in the fourth quarter, kind of like Missouri, where you're like, wow, you know what? They're hanging in there. Georgia's going to win, but I think that Mississippi State's going to turn some heads.
Let me just tell you guys, I feel like you are both lost on this one. I mean, Georgia's defense.
So you're saying
Georgia's
they match
defense.
up like Alabama's defense.
Exactly. They match up exactly like Alabama does defensively. And Mississippi State has had zero success against Alabama's defense. They'll have zero success against Georgia's defense. Georgia easily in this one. This is the Players Club. We got one more game for you, brought to you in part by our friends at the Timeout Lounge over at the Golden Moon Hotel and Casino in Philadelphia, Mississippi. Just a short drive from right here in Birmingham. And again, if you bet that $50 bet, you get to play around at Dancing Rabbit for just $30. It's the sports book at Golden Moon Casino. Play the game at the Timeout Lounge. One more game to go. It is Texas A&M and Auburn. But first, a couple of questions from the chat room. Dave says, is this the week TCU loses, guys? Forget the point spread. TCU losing outright. Mick, I'll ask you, is this the week TCU loses outright?
I mean, I could see it happening. You know, Texas A&M is, Texas is a really good team. They're building, they're getting better each week. You know, when they have Ewers in there, they're a different type of offense. Robinson is a great running back. TCU's kind of been one of those teams where they've just been getting by. You know, they trail a lot. I just feel like eventually someone's going to beat them, and I could see this being the week.
You know, I think it's interesting. Gary Patterson facing his former team.
Big factor.
Yeah, and they're the only school, Texas, that hasn't allowed a 100-yard rusher this year, which is, I think it shows you how good they've been against the run. TCU's living on borrowed time right now. Them being a 7-point underdog is the largest ever to a non-top 10 team.
Wow.
A team that's ranked in the top 5 like they are right now. So this is a big number. I think Texas, I'll lay it. I like Texas a lot here.
Milkman256 says Bama isn't beating Ole Miss, guys. He's thinking Ole Miss wins the game outright. Money line for him on that one.
Would be very surprised if Ole Miss wins this game. Of course, I said I would have been very surprised if Tennessee and LSU won those games.
Okay, one more game with a point spread we want to tell you about. Texas A&M at Auburn. Mick, I'll start with you on this one. How do you handicap a game like this when Carnell Williams is the interim coach and Jimbo Fisher seems to be on the job but absent this year? This is a tough game to handicap with a sold-out Jordan-Hare Stadium, and Carnell has got everyone revved up for Auburn. Yeah,
the Cadillac's in charge now. Look, both of these teams have kind of been puzzling to me this season. You know, I've bet on Auburn a few times this year, and towards the end of the Harsin era, it kept getting worse and worse. But I got to give them a lot of credit. You know, against Mississippi State, looked like they were going to get blown out. And they really came in swinging. They made it close, and they lost in overtime. I think the difference in this game, though, is A-Chain. Devon A-Chain has been so good, 138 yards against Ole Miss. He had 122 against Florida. He's been so consistent for Texas A&M. Last week, their quarterback was out because of the flu. He's going to be back. I just think A&M has a little bit more consistency with Jimbo, even though Jimbo struggled. The offense for Texas A&M, surprisingly, has gotten better, 400 yards in each of their last 2 weeks. So it hasn't showed up in the win column yet, but I feel like Texas A&M is starting to pick up some momentum. Auburn's 1-5 against teams that ran for over 130 yards. They should be 0-6. I mean, remember that Missouri ran over them as well, except the guy fumbled the football going in for the win. So, you know, even the one Auburn Jesus swiped the ball out. I'm taking Texas A&M and giving up the 1.5, but I could be wrong. Honestly, I wouldn't bet on this game in real life if I had to, but I'm really excited about watching it just to see kind of how it turns out.
Yeah, and I think Connor Wegman, you know, making that second career start, I thought he looked good in career start number 1. They missed him last week, back to Haynes King, but he'll be back in the lineup this week. Auburn, I said that Texas is a team that hasn't allowed a 100-yard rusher. Auburn's allowed 6 different players to go 100-plus. Make A-Chain number 7. Both of these teams are terrible against the number. A&M 2-5-2 against the number. Auburn is 3-6 against the spread. I like A&M, though. I don't love this game. It's a very hard game to handicap, but I'm going to play A&M here.
But you can get the games Lance loves every week at lanceslock.com.
Yeah, again, $90. That's all it is for everything. 19 consecutive non-losing weeks. We're going to win for you. It's as simple as that. We've got everything from college basketball, the NBA, NFL, college football. Jump on board. Again, $90 for everything. Great Christmas present, too. lanceslock.com. He's
Mick Gillispie, a Bama insider. That's Lance Taylor. I'm Jim Dunaway. The recap, LSU, Arkansas. Mick and LT likes Arkansas. I like LSU. Clemson hosting Louisville. Mick and LT likes Louisville. I like Clemson. Alabama at Ole Miss. LT likes Alabama. Mick and I will take Ole Miss. Mississippi State hosting Georgia. I like Georgia. You two guys like Mississippi State, and we all like Texas A&M. Mick, enjoy Week 11, buddy. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Hey, it's always fun, guys.
All right. See you later. That's the Players Club, Week 11.